Hello YouTube, today we're gonna tie some fly. This is a very simple fly. It's called surf candy, and basically epoxy minnow fly, but this is my own version of it. And this fly is actually a weighted fly, and I don't use lat wire to weight the fly, so I use the Radioshack soldering wire instead. This particular one is a 0.022 inches diameter one. So let's get started. First, just tie some threads on, lay some threads, go back. Cut off the tag end, and then we're gonna wrap the lead wire on it. About 20 turns, and this is a pretty heavily weighted fly. I use this fly in heavy current, like inlet, pier, maybe jetty. Around like 20 turns or so. And you can just snip it off like this by pulling it, and then wrap the end. And make sure everything is tight, and then you use the thread. Use the thread to make a stop right here. Then you wrap the thread around, go to the top, and then you make another bump with the thread. So now the wire is secured. Okay, next step, we'll be using a little bit of polar flash, and basically form the flashy body of the fly. So what I'm doing is cut a little bit off, then double up the thread, pin it down with the thread, and then you can start wrapping onto the body. And this part is going to be buried in the epoxy, so then put the thread over and tie it down at the end, and then trim the excess off. And wrap a little more, come back to the head. Now we're going to put on some super hair, form the body. You don't need much, just a little bit of it should be enough. And I don't like wasting fly tying material, so I'm gonna maybe the length should be about this, so I'm gonna double this up, twist it a little bit, and cut it off right here. And then I'm gonna cut in the middle. And then measure the length. So I'm gonna triple that bunch of hair there. So cut the end off. Make it flush. Like so. And then I'll tie on. Make sure everything is on top. And you grab the hair. Basically, you pin down the hair with a little bit of thread. Do not apply a lot of pressure on the thread just yet. And from that point on, you can just put pressure on and pin down the hair like so, and take off the excess hair. Okay, and then polar flash for the tail. You'll do the same, measure the length, make sure it is a little bit longer than the body, so it'll give a nice flashy looking tail in the water. And just trim it off, cut in the middle. You can always trim off the excess later, so like so. And do the same, pin down with the thread, make sure this thing is centered, and then gently, actually I'm going to trim off the head. It's a little bit longer than I expected. Okay, wrap around, then you can trim off the excess like so. Okay, then the back, same thing, super hair, chartreuse. I like a chartreuse over white, especially when I'm fishing at night under the light, and it's very effective, this color combination. So I do the same, measure the length and cut it off from here, and I'll triple it up later. And cut in the middle. Measure the length. It looks okay. Trim it off a little. And then you put on the hair, like so. Make sure it's in the middle. Then instead of wrapping, and make sure everything is lined up, and then you trim off the head. And build up the head. Okay, so that's the first step. Then we're gonna use the whip finishing tool. To trim off the tag end. Okay, that's your basic body of the fly. So what I like to do here is to do the trimming first, trimming of the hair. Basically you grab the hair like so and just use a scissor, just gently go through all the hair. I'll make the back hair a little shorter. Then do it more. Okay. And then you flip the fly over. Do the same. Just grab the hair, pull it straight, and then run your scissors down. Okay, so it should be look like this. Okay, next step, we're gonna form the body of the epoxy part. What I like to do is use some Zapa Gap, or maybe, you know, regular super glue will do. Okay, so put the glue on top of the thread, then a little bit on the body. Here's the trick. You pull all the hair together and tight, and then you apply the glue on top of it. So that's your basic body of the fly. And then we're gonna come back, we're gonna wait for the glue to dry and come back with epoxy. And here we're gonna put the eyes on before everything got dried. Same thing. This is the eye I'm gonna be using. I found these shiny half beads with adhesive on the back at Michael's, so I think it works pretty well for making an eye for the fly. So just put it on like so, maybe a drop of the glue later, just right here. I'll put a little bit drop on it to make sure everything is secured. Okay, just one drop is enough to hold everything together. But we're gonna put on epoxy anyway later. And the curing time for Zapa Gap is about 15 minutes, so we'll come back later after everything is cured. So that's the eye. Okay, now we're gonna put on the epoxy for the surf candy. So what I have is 5 minutes epoxy, just regular Gorilla brand epoxy. So according to instruction, you need to mix this thing for 20 seconds. So I just started mixing. It's really simple, just on a piece of paper. We can start mixing. Make sure minimal air bubble in the mixture, so the finished product looks nice and clear. Okay, it looks pretty good now. Not very runny, so I'm gonna put the epoxy on. Make sure it will be a lot easier if you have a drying wheel, so it can rotate. But I don't have the time for making one. That'll be a winter project, and I have actually a speed control unit built for that purpose, which is part of my magnetic loop antenna project. But we're probably gonna use that for control the speed of the drying wheel. Okay, looks pretty good. So we're gonna take this thing off and start it rotating. The set timer is about 5 minutes, so you have to keep doing this for about 5 minutes until everything hardens. Let's put on a little bit more here and keep on rotating. And as you can see, the lead wire, the soldering wire is actually buried in the epoxy. Just make sure the tail is centered so it doesn't swim funky. It looks good. Just keep rotating until everything sets. It is a pretty sparse fly. Very minimal material and very easy to make, and best part, it catches fish. I've caught weakfish, I've caught striped bass, I've caught shad and bluefish using this fly. So it's very very good fly, very universal pattern to imitate small bait fish like spearing, anchovy, silver size, etc. So the head started to shape now. And slowly started to set. Very sparse fly, almost translucent. You can even pinch down. Now it's almost set. Pinch down here to make it a little tighter. Just gently touch it, pinch it down a little bit. When you use a 5 minutes epoxy, just keep in mind this resin will not set completely hardened in 24 hours. At least give it 12 hours before you started using this fly. Just something to keep in mind. So I might have to switch to UV cement at some point. It's less messy and more convenient and shorter set time. But until now, I'll be sticking with the 5 minutes epoxy. Okay, I'll touch it. Almost hardened. Just to make sure we're not dripping or anything. So there you have it, a surf candy fly. If you like my video, please comment below and share my video. And if you have questions, please message me. And thanks for watching.